These planes that we have right now, 1986, these F-16s are about 1986, 1987 models. They don't make new parts for them, so we turn the parts in to repair facilities where they rebuild it and send us the part back. During the inauguration last year, right at the end of January, we had a mechanical engine control unit, think carburetor, turned into the logistics depot to be repaired. And the person who was rebuilding this carburetor, if you will, failed to install a pin that's about 1/2 of an inch long. And so the carburetor was not able to stay together, let me say it that way. We installed that part back in February or March. The maintenance guys, they ran all of the checks and everything on the F-16, and it worked fine on the ground. Running the engine and afterburner and everything worked perfectly on the ground. And so on April 5th, we put that F-16 on the schedule, and Captain, I believe Lieutenant at the time, Lieutenant, our youngest pilot in the squadron, Lieutenant Morgan, hopped in the plane that morning on the 5th of April. Captain.
Thank you, sir. So I was number 2 in a 4-ship of F-16s on that day. We were just going out to do a standard CT mission, just training, up to Indiantown Gap in Pennsylvania. It was a northbound departure, and because DC lives just to the north of us, there's restricted airspace that we have to abide by. So we have to do a pretty aggressive turn to the left, a 3 to 4 G turn to the west. And so after I complete that turn on takeoff, I'm cleared to rejoin on my flight lead. So I rejoin, or I begin to rejoin to 1 nautical mile line abreast on the left side of him. And that's when I start realizing that stuff in the jet just isn't responding the way that I'm normally used to. I start seeing and feeling uncontrolled acceleration. So I'm accelerating past 450 knots, 480 knots, which is greater than 500 miles an hour. And I'm not able to control that, like I said. So I start moving my throttle and I start troubleshooting to see if I can get the jet to respond how I want it to. And just as I'm starting to troubleshoot that, I'm over Old Town Alexandria. My one engine that I have gives out on me. And in a situation like that, we have critical action procedures that we need to abide by. We know like the back of our hand, we have them memorized. However, one of those actions is to jettison my external fuel tanks. Knowing that I'm over Old Town Alexandria, I don't live too far away from there, I'm there a lot. I know that there are a lot of people down there on the ground. So I elect to hold off on jettison my tanks until I make my left-hand turn over the Potomac River. I let my flight lead know that my engine has failed on me, and he tells his number 3 to rejoin on me. And as he's rejoining on me, he then tells me that I'm on fire. So I take a deep breath. I had uncontrolled acceleration, so the jet wasn't responding to my inputs. My one engine fails on me, and now I'm told that I'm on fire. So I start troubleshooting the fire. I need to get the fire out, or else other bad things can happen. So I eventually jettison my external fuel tanks just over the Potomac River, and the F-16 has pretty small wings, so yes, I can glide, but not very far. Fortunately, it was a clear and a million day, and I could see Andrews Air Force Base in the distance, and I was just willing the jet to make it there with no engine. Eventually, I realized that I'm not going to be able to make the Air Force Base, and I start coordinating with my 4-ship where to put this jet. I start looking outside, and fortunately, I see a big open field. Now, can I make that open field? Can I not? We're going to find out, because that's my only option. So I point the jet to the open field. Fortunately enough, the jet is able to make it there, and I get to below my controlled ejection parameters of 2,000 feet, and I have to eject. So I let my flight know that I'm ejecting, and at about 1,500 feet, I'm ejected from the aircraft. Now this ejection sequence happens in less than 1.5 seconds. Think of it as I experienced 14 G's out of that aircraft. So think of weighing 14 times the amount that you do all in 1 second. So it's pretty forceful and aggressive. The single best thing though was when I looked up and I saw that the parachute was open above my head. So I knew I at least had that going for me that day. And as soon as I see the parachute is open, I go through my sequence that I am trained to do as far as my ejection and being able to land on the ground. And I'm looking to make sure the jet lands in an area that won't harm anyone. I see that the jet lands in the woods, and I start making my way to the field that I wanted the jet to land in the first place. I have to say, within minutes, I'm not kidding, within minutes of me touching down on the ground, I had 3 people approach me from one side of the field, 2 people approach me from the other side. I had U.S. Park Police helicopter landed. I had the 1st Helo Squadron, 2 helicopters landed, and I had first responders approach me. I'm not kidding, I actually had a smile on my face. For such a bad day, I had a smile on my face, just how incredible everyone was that day to be there within minutes. It's funny, the U.S. Park Police, so I didn't have my phone on me that day. The pilot came out and asked me if I was all right. I said yes. He said, "Do you need anything?" And I said, "Do you have a cell phone?" Because I knew my wife was home that day, and if she turned on the news, I figured she would get a little upset. So I was able to call her and let her know that I was okay, and she spread the word. But at this point, I had no idea if anyone was injured on the ground or not, so I had that burden on my shoulders at this point. The 1st Helo Squadron took me up in the helicopter. They actually had a flight surgeon on board. Coincidence? I don't know, but he checked me over from head to toe, and I was good. Took me to the hospital, and it wasn't until an hour or 2 after the ejection itself that my wife came to the hospital and told me that no one was injured on the ground. So that was a huge weight lifted off of my back, knowing that everyone was okay. And I'll be honest, the outreach from the community, the first responders that day, and even I've had interactions with some first responders that arrived on the field that day, has just been incredible. It's made this event so much easier for me and my family. So I need to seriously let you guys know how thankful I am to be part of such a great community. So for that, I'm grateful. Thank you very much.